it's just tough, you know.
For 10 years, Ed Pearson worked on the 737 for a company he had long admired.
The 737 was a magnificent airplane, great safety record. Were you excited to work for the company?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, how could you not want to work for Boeing? It's an amazing company.
But a flawed one, he says.
Bottom line is you're worried about people dying in Boeing planes.
Yeah, absolutely.
After 30 years in the military, much of it spent in an airplane, Ed Pearson is a reluctant whistleblower. His concerns date back to 2017. As the production of Boeing's new 737 MAX ramped up, Ed Pearson says he started to see things that alarmed him, affecting not just the MAX, but also the 737 NG.
It's just out of control, and it was ridiculous.
The race to build the new planes and compete with Europe's Airbus, he says, pushed Boeing's production schedule into overdrive. Instead of 47 planes a month, 52 were being built.
So how much overtime was going on at this point? Did it double?
Well, more than double.
He says many people worked for weeks in a row without a day off, and some ended up doing jobs they'd never trained for. He sent this email to the head of the 737 team in June 2018, expressing his concern that workers were inadvertently embedding safety hazards into our airplanes. And his email included something else, even more damning.
You know, I said that all my internal warning bells are going off, and that, you know, first time in my life I'm hesitant about putting my family on a Boeing plane.
Pearson says he urged the Boeing managers to shut down the factory just long enough to straighten things out.
And what was his reaction to that?
He said, you know, we can't shut down. And then I kind of got mad and said, you know, I've seen military operations shut down for a lot less.
What was his reply to that?
Something I'll never forget. He said, well, the military is not a profit-making organization.
What words would you use to describe that factory at that point?
Dangerous. You take an unnecessary risk. Chaotic.
4 months later, Lion Air crashed in Indonesia, killing all 189 people on board.
And the irony that when you wrote that first letter, that Lion airplane was on the factory floor.
It was within our production system at the time. When I saw that was, I really can't say. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. I cried a lot.
Did you?
Yeah. I'm mad at myself because I felt like maybe I could have done more.
Over the next several months, he reached out to Boeing's CEO and the general counsel. 19 days after sending this letter to the Boeing board, a second 737 MAX crashed. The Ethiopian Airlines crash killed all 157 people on board. Afterwards, the 737 MAX was grounded worldwide. Lawyer Eric Havian has represented hundreds of whistleblowers, Ed Pearson for free. He was shocked by how little interest regulators took in the information Pearson gave them after the second deadly crash.
I was at a loss to understand it.
Is Boeing too big to fail? Is Boeing too big to be regulated?
Well, that's a possibility. I mean, Boeing certainly has received unusually favorable treatment from the FAA and from government aviation regulators.
Pearson says he doesn't know if what he witnessed contributed to the crashes, but feels it's imperative that the production line is investigated to make sure.
Somewhere in the end of my letter to the board, I said, you know, no one wants to wake up one morning and hear of another accident, and that's exactly what happened.
While Boeing has previously acknowledged mistakes, including that their anti-stall system contributed to both crashes, this morning Boeing is pushing back strongly, saying the 737 is one of the safest planes flying, and they say, quote, the suggestion by Mr. Pearson of a link between his concerns and the recent MAX accidents is completely unfounded, and that so far no investigators have found production conditions in the factory contributed to the accidents.
So, Cynthia, apparently Ed Pearson is scheduled to testify before Congress tomorrow. Any idea on what he's planning to say?
Yeah, expect him to say that during late 2017 and 18, Boeing was delivering less than 10% of the 737s on time, leading management to push for speed over safety. His concerns are far broader than the much-discussed flaws in the MCAS anti-stall system. He is essentially concerned that any 737 made during this window may have safety flaws baked in. Now, there are hundreds of those planes flying right now. Mr. Pearson has shown us 13 safety incidents involving the new 737. Some of them appear really concerning, like losing an engine on takeoff. Craig?
Lots of folks will be paying very close attention to what he says tomorrow. Cynthia, thank you.